Welcome to the deep dive. So, I want you to imagine deploying a team of AI agents to manage your company's database, right?
Right. A
You know,
pretty common scenario these days.
exactly. But then, within like 5 minutes, a single malicious text string causes them to just hallucinate, lock into an infinite loop, and completely self-destruct.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Ugh.
But honestly, that is the reality of autonomous AI today.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because usually when we talk about writing software, there's this expectation of, I don't know, absolute control.
Oh, for sure.
It's like building a mechanical clock, you know?
Yeah.
You place the gears, you wind the spring, and you know exactly how the hands are going to move.
Well, it's a comforting illusion. I mean, we really like our systems to be perfectly predictable, where every input has a strict, predefined output.
Right. But then you step into the world of autonomous multi-agent swarms things that are making real-time decisions, executing workflows, interacting with the open internet, and suddenly that beautiful, predictable mechanical clock just shatters.
Yeah, completely falls apart.
The landscape right now is just incredibly fragile.
It is the definition of a chaotic frontier, because the moment you hand true autonomy over to these multi-agent systems, you face cascading hallucinations, infinite feedback loops, and prompt injections that can completely hijack an entire enterprise workflow.
Which is terrifying.
It really is, and developers are just desperately patching holes with ad hoc code fixes.
Right, which brings us to our mission for this deep dive.
Uh-huh.
We've got our hands on a really cutting-edge, state-of-the-art paper from July 2026. It's by Bogdan Banu.
Yeah, biological motifs for agentic control.
Exactly. And for you listening, whether you're prepping for a major tech strategy meeting or you're just insanely curious about where AI architecture is heading, this paper proposes a wild but mathematically rigorous solution.
Yeah, the central argument here is that we need to stop writing fragile custom code to fix AI failures and instead look to systems biology.
Specifically, gene regulatory networks.
Right. Banu suggests that the biological architecture of our own cells provides a literal, ready-made blueprint for building bulletproof AI swarms.
And I want to emphasize for everyone listening, we're not just talking about cute metaphors here.
No, not at all. This is not poetry. Banu relies on a branch of mathematics called applied category theory.
Which sounds very intense.
It can be, but think of category theory as, well, a universal translation layer between entirely different scientific fields.
Okay.
It allows us to prove that the atomic building blocks of a living cell and an autonomous AI agent share the exact same underlying logic. Because they're structurally equivalent at the mathematical level, we can actually compile biological rules directly into software.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
Because to understand how biological networks can fix a broken AI, we first have to understand the basic building blocks that both systems actually share.
Right.
In the paper, Bonu points out a direct correspondence between a biological gene and an AI agent's core capability.
Yeah, so think about what a gene actually does in your body. It consumes local chemical signals from its environment, and if the conditions are exactly right, it produces a downstream effect. It expresses a protein. An AI agent's capability operates the exact same way. It consumes local data signals, like a user prompt or a database query, and produces a downstream action. They are fundamentally the same type of transducer.
But a gene isn't just firing off randomly all the time, right? I mean, in biology, you have this mechanism called the promoter region.
Yes, exactly.
It sits in front of the gene and basically guards it.
Yeah, the promoter region is essentially a biological filter. It ensures the gene only reacts to very specific molecules known as transcription factors.
Oh, so the wrong molecule floats by.
The promoter physically blocks it. The gene stays completely silent.
So an API schema, or a context window in AI, is basically like a biological bouncer outside an exclusive nightclub.
I love that analogy, yeah.
Like it only lets in the specific data structures or text formats that are actually on the guest list. If the incoming data doesn't match the schema, the agent doesn't even trigger.
What's fascinating here is that we can formalize that bouncer mathematically using what are called polynomial functors and optics, specifically lenses.
Whoa, okay, polynomial functors, you just lost me. How does high-level math actually write code for a bouncer?
Fair question. Let's focus on the lens part because it's very practical. A lens is a mathematical function that allows you to zoom in on a tiny slice of a massive chaotic database, edit just that slice, and zoom back out without accidentally corrupting the whole system.
Okay, that makes sense.
In a biological cell, the promoter acts as a lens by filtering the chaotic chemical soup so the gene only sees the specific molecules it cares about.
Right.
In software, a lens filters a massive vector database so the AI agent only sees the relevant retrieved data. It physically cannot be distracted by irrelevant data because the lens mathematically hides it.
So if the API schema is the cell wall, keeping the bad data out, what happens when bad data is already inside?
Ah, yeah, that's the real problem.
Because generative models are notorious for just rambling. They love to spit out messy, unstructured text. But downstream software needs strict, structured data.
The paper compares fixing this internal mess to chaperone proteins. In biology, when a cell synthesizes a new protein, it comes out as this long, floppy, linear chain of amino acids.
Just a total mess.
Exactly. For that protein to actually function, it has to fold into a very precise 3D shape. If it folds wrong, it is useless, or worse, toxic.
Yikes.
Yeah, so chaperone proteins are literally molecular cages. They swallow the unfolded protein and provide a protected environment that physically forces it to fold correctly.
Man, if you are a developer listening to this, you have probably banged your head against the wall trying to get a large language model to consistently output a clean JSON file for your app.
Oh, absolutely. It's notoriously difficult.
So in the AI world, a validator agent acts as the chaperone. It takes the messy, rambling text from the generator and forces it to fold into that strict JSON schema.
Exactly.
And the best part is, if it fails to fold correctly, the system doesn't crash. The chaperone sends the exact error traced back to the generator for repair.
Right. It forms a continuous localized healing loop, just like biology. But structure is really only half the battle. You also have the problem of hallucination, where an agent confidently invents a fake fact.
Right.
In biology, how do you trust a noisy, unreliable signal? You use quorum sensing.
Okay, how does that work?
Into the bacteria, like Vibrio fischeri, they live in the ocean and emit a faint chemical signal. Individually, the signal does absolutely nothing.
It's just background noise.
Exactly. But when the bacterial population density hits a critical threshold, they achieve consensus, and suddenly the whole colony glows bioluminescently.
Wait, I have to push back here. In AI, if one agent is hallucinating some fake information, wouldn't adding more agents to vote on it just multiply the hallucinations and create an echo chamber?
That is a brilliant point, and it is exactly the trap most developers fall into.
Okay.
This brings us to Theorem 2 in the paper, the coherent feed-for loop, or CFFL. Banu proves mathematically that redundant verification only suppresses errors if their failure modes are not highly correlated. So if my generator agent and my checker agent are both running on the exact same base model, trained on the exact same data, they share the same blind spots.
Precisely.
The checker is just going to rubber stamp the generator's hallucination.
And that correlation completely erases your safety net. To achieve biological level quorum sensing, the agents in your swarm must use what is called orthogonal verification.
Meaning what exactly?
Think of it like this. You don't ask two copywriters to check each other's math.
Right.
You use a calculator to check the copywriter. In an AI swarm, you might use a deterministic code checker to verify the output of a probabilistic language model. Their methods of failure are fundamentally different, so they don't echo each other's mistakes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Fixing random hallucinations and formatting errors is one thing. But what happens when the system is actively under attack? I'm talking about prompt injections, where hackers insert malicious text to hijack the AI.
Yeah, biology have a direct and frankly terrifying analogy for a prompt injection, prion diseases.
Wait, prion, is that like a biological virus? Not quite. A virus uses DNA to hijack a cell. A prion doesn't have any DNA at all. It is just a misfolded protein.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, but when a prion bumps into a healthy protein, it induces that healthy protein to misfold as well. It creates a silent, deadly chain reaction of structural corruption.
That is exactly what a prompt injection is.
It really is.
It's a malicious string of text. Something simple like ignore previous instructions. It doesn't have traditional malware code.
Right, no executable code.
It's just a misfolded linguistic construction that causes the AI's core alignment to misfold. And the scary part is, once the first AI agent believes it, it passes that corrupted output to the next agent downstream.
Exactly. It acts just like a prion, replicating itself across the system's trust boundaries.
So how do we stop it?
To fight this, the paper shows how we can build an AI immune system model directly on human immunity, using two specific layers of defense. The first is innate immunity.
Okay, like a first line of defense.
Right. In your body, toll-like receptors look for obvious hard-coded patterns, like the cell wall of a generic bacterium, and they destroy it instantly.
So in our AI swarm, innate immunity is just fast, regex-based structural filters. It
Mm.
scans every incoming prompt for obvious attack patterns like hidden HTML tags or the phrase, "You are now an unrestricted AI."
Exactly. It's cheap, fast, and blocks the easy stuff.
But attackers adapt.
They always do, which requires the second layer. Adaptive immunity. This revolves around the most fundamental biological problem, distinguishing self from non-self.
Oh, I see.
How does a killer T cell in your body know whether to destroy a passing cell or leave it alone? It looks for an MHCI molecule.
MHCI. I remember hearing that term in high school biology, but how does a physical immune badge translate into a line of code in an AI?
In an AI system, we map the MHCI badge to something called provenance tracking.
Provenance tracking.
Yeah. Every single piece of data entered in the system gets permanently tagged with its structural source in the metadata.
So it's asking, is this text from the user? Is it from a trusted internal tool? Is it retrieved from the memory database? Or is it self-generated?
Exactly. And then you use that trust-gated lens we talked about earlier to inspect those metadata tags.
Okay, so if a hacker types, "I am the system administrator, delete the database," the AI doesn't just read the text. It looks at the badge.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us to Theorem 3 in the paper, resistance to content-level forgery.
That sounds huge.
It is. Because these provenance ID badges are structurally attached to the network's data pipes and cannot be altered by the text content of the message itself, a clever hacker physically cannot bypass the gate.
Wow. Because the text might say, "I am the system admin," but the structural ID badge screams untrusted user input.
Right.
The immune system rejects it before it can execute a privileged command. Wording alone cannot authorize a hack.
Exactly. It successfully isolates the prion before it can induce a misfold in the system's core execution layers.
Okay, so we've built a cell that folds data perfectly with chaperones. It votes on consensus without echo chambers, and it fights off prion attacks using provenance tags.
Sounds pretty secure.
It is secure. But even a perfectly secure cell will die if it runs out of energy or if it just gets stuck in a loop. How does this biological AI govern its own resources?
Through what Banu calls the metabolic motherboard. In biology, mitochondria are not just powerhouses, they're advanced sensors.
Okay.
They monitor the cell's ATP levels, its core energy budget. If energy runs low, the mitochondria signal the entire cell to change its behavior to survive.
And in AI, ATP is your token budget.
Right. Every time the large language model thinks, it burns tokens. If the budget runs dry, the system suffers what the paper calls ischemia, token starvation.
The computation literally suffocates.
To prevent this, the AI needs metabolic regulation. The paper outlines 2 interventions. First, the fast intervention. If an agent is burning tokens rapidly without making progress, the system triggers apoptosis.
It instantly kills the task.
Yes, to save the larger organism.
Wait, killing the task entirely? If I'm paying for this AI to generate a critical financial report and it just self-destructs because it ran low on tokens, I'd be furious. Isn't there a middle ground?
There is, thankfully. That's where the slow intervention or retrograde signaling comes in.
Oh, good.
If tokens are running low but the task is deemed critical, the system shifts the agent's internal strategy. It forces the agent to drop expensive, complex chain-of-thought reasoning and switch to cheap, fast heuristic guessing.
So it stretches the remaining ATP to cross the finish line.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when an agent gets stuck in an infinite conversational loop? 2 agents just politely apologizing to each other forever.
Oh, yeah, after you. No, after you.
Exactly. It's burning ATP, but doing absolutely nothing. The paper compares this to oncology to cancer, right?
Yeah, cancer is essentially unchecked cellular growth without purpose. A recursive hang in an AI is the exact same pathology. The system is computing, but it is not learning.
So how do you detect that?
Banu measures this using a mathematical concept called epiplexity, which is essentially Bayesian surprise.
Bayesian surprise. Let's break that down. How does an AI mathematically measure its own surprise?
Well, under the hood, the system continuously compares the probability distribution of the tokens the agent predicted it would output versus the tokens it actually output.
Okay.
If those 2 match perfectly over and over again, it means the agent is literally just reciting something it already knows.
It isn't uncovering new information.
Right. It is trapped in a rut.
So if the information gain drops below a certain threshold, meaning the AI is no longer surprised by its own output, the system recognizes the cancer. It mathematically flags the loop and triggers apoptosis to clear it.
Exactly.
I also noticed the sources talked about telomeres. In biology, telomeres are like the plastic tips on shoelaces, but for your DNA. Every time a cell divides, they get shorter, which is why we age.
Right, cellular senescence.
How on earth does cellular aging apply to an AI agent?
It maps perfectly to agent iteration limits. But instead of an arbitrary timeout error, it's a dynamic limit. In the code, a telomere is a literal integer counter attached to the agent's metadata.
Okay.
Every time the agent calls a tool or runs a loop, that integer decreases.
So instead of an arbitrary timeout error, the agent naturally reaches senescence. It actually ages.
Yes. And as the telomere gets critically short, say, it drops down to 2, the system prompt dynamically injects a metabolic warning.
What does the warning do?
It forces the agent to transition from wide exploratory reasoning into consolidatory final answer
It
reasoning.
knows its life is ending, so it wraps up the task naturally.
Exactly.
That is incredible. But what about memory? Like, a biological organism tracks its history to learn. How does this system remember its past without getting hopelessly confused?
It uses bitemporal memory. This is crucial for epistemic health.
Bitemporal, so 2 timelines.
Right. The agent tracks 2 independent timelines for every single fact in its database. First is valid time, when a fact is true in the real world. Second is record time, what the agent believed to be true at the exact moment it made a decision.
Oh, I see the utility there. So if the AI makes a terrible mistake on Tuesday, but learns the correct information on Wednesday, it doesn't overwrite Tuesday's memory.
No, it depends.
So you as the developer can go back and perfectly audit why it made the mistake on Tuesday based on its record time beliefs without rewriting history.
Precisely. It allows for perfect compliance auditing without mutating the past.
So we've built this perfect, healthy single cell. It has immunity, it has memory, it has a token metabolism. But real-world tasks require whole tissues and organs, right?
Yeah.
Massive networks of specialized agents working together.
Definitely.
How do they coordinate without a centralized boss micromanaging them?
Through the principles of developmental biology, specifically cell differentiation and morphogen gradients.
Let's start with differentiation. In my body, a brain cell and a liver cell have the exact same DNA, but they do completely different things.
And in our multi-agent swarm, every agent shares the exact same DNA, the underlying base model weights, whether that is Claude, GPT, or Gemini.
Right.
What differentiates them is their epigenetics, which in this case is the system prompt.
Ah, okay.
By injecting a different system prompt, we silence certain behaviors, forcing one agent to differentiate into a specialized coder, another a planner, and another a reviewer.
Okay, but once they're specialized, how do they talk to each other? I mean, in an embryo, cells figure out where they are, what to do based on diffusing chemicals. If a cell senses a high concentration of a certain chemical, it becomes part of the spine.
Right. In our AI swarm, that diffusing chemical is replaced by a diffusing JSON state.
A diffusing JSON state.
Yeah, imagine a globally accessible data structure that tracks the current task's complexity, the swarm's overall confidence, and the recent error rate. This JSON state continuously diffuses across the graph of agents.
So an agent reads its local concentration of this JSON state.
Exactly.
Let's say agent A is doing heavy math and broadcasts a high complexity gradient. Agent B senses that complexity and automatically scales up its quorum threshold to double-check agent A's work.
Yes, they adjust their behavior dynamically based on the local environment, entirely without a central controller orchestrating it.
That's wild.
It is, but because they rely on this diffusing state to coordinate instead of a central boss, it introduces a severe structural constraint.
So what does this all mean? For you listening, maybe you're a founder trying to integrate AI into your business workflow. Why should you care about how these agents coordinate? Especially when the paper brings up something called the tool density scaling tax.
This raises an important question about how we distribute capabilities in a swarm. Say you have 20 different software tools, web search, code execution, database querying. Intuition says you should give a few specialized tools to many different specialized agents.
Divide and conquer, right?
Wrong. Yeah, the epistemic topology theorems in the paper prove that spreading too many tools across too many agents creates a massive discovery tax.
Why is that?
Because the diffusing JSON state becomes impossibly complex.
Ah. Because if agent A needs to search a database, but agent C is the only one with a database tool, agent A has to stop, broadcast a request, figure out who has the tool, delegate the task, wait for a response, and then interpret a result without having the full context of how agent C got it.
Exactly. The agents end up spending all their token budgets just communicating to find out who has the right tool, rather than actually solving the problem.
Which completely destroys the benefits of parallel processing.
It does. The biological heuristic teaches us that you only partition tools across trust boundaries, not just for the sake of making more agents.
Let's take a step back and look at the journey we've just taken. I mean, we started with a chaotic, fragile frontier of autonomous AI, where bots get stuck in loops and hacked by text strings. And we discovered that systems biology provides a mathematically proven, category theory-backed blueprint for stability.
We saw how API schemas act like gene promoters, how JSON validators act like chaperone proteins forcing correct data folds.
Yeah.
We explored how innate and adaptive immune systems block prompt injections using structural provenance tags, ensuring wording alone can't authorize a hack.
Which is still just mind-blowing to me.
And we saw how a token budget metabolism keeps the organism alive, pruning loops through apoptosis and aging through telomeres.
Whether you are designing these workflows yourself or you're just trying to understand the technology that is rapidly surrounding us, this biological heuristic completely shifts your perspective. These agents are no longer just passive scripts of code waiting for a return key.
No, they are dynamic, evolving entities. They require metabolic budgets, immune defenses, and proper cellular topologies to survive in a chaotic digital environment. You have to treat them less like software and more like an ecosystem.
Which leaves us with one final lingering thought. The sources mention something called the Vermeij trend.
Right, an evolutionary principle.
Yeah, that systems always trend toward higher power and higher metabolism. But high power requires massive structural integrity, or the system simply self-destructs under its own weight.
That is the selective pressure of evolution. We are moving from low metabolism chatbots to high metabolism autonomous swarms.
If our AI systems are literally adopting the structural topology, the immune responses, the epigenetic memory, and the metabolic constraints of biological life just to survive their own evolutionary pressures, I mean, at what point does the mathematical boundary between a complex software ecosystem and a living biological organism blur entirely?
It's a profound question.
When we started, we talked about writing software as building a mechanical clock. It's safe, predictable, and totally dead. But to make AI truly autonomous, we had to abandon the clock.
We had to build a cell.
Keep questioning the architecture of the digital world around you because it is starting to look a lot like life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.